Hey, everybody. That was funny. Hope you're all having a good day. It's time for coffee with Mare. It's been a while. I need to catch you up on a whole lot of things, okay? So, today's video, what not to do on the carnivore diet. I really want you guys to get that there are specific things that you should and should not do while you're on carnivore. And we're going to talk about all those kinds of things, okay? Because I've been doing this for 5 years. Actually, I think it was 5 years in January. And the last year and a half has been full of experiments, okay? And what do I mean by experiments? I'm a researcher. I'm kind of an at-home scientist. My background is in information technology, and I've always had a very curious mind. I love reading up on quantum physics and spirituality and all kinds of things. And I am an alignment coach, which has to do with your energy and spirituality. But I've also coached a bunch of people on their carnivore diet. And we're going to get some terms really clear today. First of all, let's talk about the word diet. Okay, diet is not something that you go on for a specific period of time. Diet is what you do on a day-to-day basis. So if you can hear that every time you hear the word diet and understand that when people are saying, oh, I did the chicken soup diet, oh, I did the Snickers diet, they're not talking in the same language that we are here. It's super important to make that distinction because carnivore is a way of life. It's a way of eating. It's what you do on a day-to-day basis that is going to make a big difference in your life, like it did in mine. We'll get to the experiments in a minute, but I can tell you, if you're new to my channel, here's my story in a nutshell. I've been on disability for about 7 years because I started getting diagnosed with everything from chronic migraines to irritable bowel syndrome. I have been diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And the big one that really, it's not something you can put into remission, is a genetic condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And it used to be categorized as a rare disease, and a lot of people still consider it rare. The problem is that it's not rare. It's actually underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed. And it took me 20 years to get a diagnosis. And it took somebody looking at the whole picture who was kind of an outsider, who was actually a psychiatrist who specializes in chronic fatigue. And when she saw me, she was like, I don't know if this is chronic fatigue. She's like, I watch the way your body moves. I watch the way you sit down. I hear everything that you're saying. And I think that you have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And to qualify that, at excuse me, at age 50, I am still very, very flexible. There is a scale that doctors and specialists use to try and determine whether or not you are hypermobile first, and it's called the Beighton scale, and it's scored out of 9, and I'm a 9 out of 9 still. And you don't have to be a 9 out of 9 to get diagnosed with that, but I am, and I am still, from when I was given that diagnosis about 7 years ago. So what I can tell you is that 2 of my conditions are in remission. My psoriatic arthritis is in remission. My fibromyalgia is in remission. So they're no longer mine. They're just kind of there. They're something that is now on a piece of paper that don't interfere with my day-to-day life. And yes, did I receive treatment for those? Fibromyalgia, you can only really manage symptoms. Same thing with psoriatic arthritis and having psoriasis in some not very nice places on my body. I'm keeping it real, people. There are all kinds of things that went along with the psoriatic arthritis that were not specifically arthritis related. They were skin involvement. And that stuff I've been battling my whole life because I've had eczema since I was a kid too. And eczema's gone, psoriasis is gone. I'm no longer having to inject myself with a biologic medicine every week at home. I am off of the meds that I was put on for fibromyalgia to manage the pain. And there were big discoveries when I went off of those meds that I continued to be on until January. And really, that's when my rheumatologist and I declared me in remission. So that was such a joyous piece of news. And that is despite the fact that I was having all of these food experiments. So why do I call them experiments? Oh, you just stopped eating carnivore, didn't you? Oh, you were cheating on your diet. No, I was running experiments after, about 3.5 years, 4 years of carnivore. I was like, let's see how metabolically flexible I am. If you don't know anything about metabolic flexibility, here's what it is. It's being able to eat whatever you want and your body doesn't get inflamed. You don't put on weight for no reason. You don't start getting headaches. Your sinuses don't get involved because of histamine responses. Those are the kinds of things. If you're metabolically flexible, you're one of these blessed people that has a body that can take in carbohydrates, it can take in fats, it can take in proteins, and it can digest all of those things like micronutrients as well as oxalates and anti-nutrients that are found in the plant world, which we can talk about a little bit later. But there are other people who explain oxalates and anti-nutrients far better than I will, because that's not my focus. My focus here is that I'm trying to build the healthiest, strongest body that I possibly can with the food that I'm eating. So when I began this journey, it was actually a really good girlfriend that I used to teach skiing with that I saw her story. She posted that on social media, and it was a year into her journey of being carnivore, and she had reversed her issues with her gut microbiome and all kinds of things that had been plaguing her for her whole life. And she's also got some sick kiddos at home that are now like teenagers and adults, and that I think that they've also been influenced in this, and they've seen better health by changing the way they eat too. So being metabolically flexible is something that, without knowing it, I think that's most people dream of that, and being able to say that about their body, because it just means you can eat whatever you want and you still look great, you still feel great, you still have energy, you still have mental clarity because your body's working properly. So there is metabolic disease on both sides of my family. There is heart disease on both sides of my family. There is diabetes in one side of the family. There is pancreatic cancer in one side of the family. There are all kinds of things that really are indicative of poor metabolic flexibility, as well as insulin resistance. If you don't know anything about insulin resistance, that is a whole other topic. And I've talked about that in my first 30 days of carnivore that I did 5 years ago. And we'll just touch on it. Okay. Whatever carbohydrate you eat, any carbohydrate that you eat, there's an insulin response to that. Okay. If you are insulin sensitive, that means that your body regulates itself with insulin, a very important hormone, because that's what it is. It's a hormone. If you are not insulin sensitive and you have insulin resistance, that means that you are not regulating your insulin response very well, and that when your blood sugar spikes after having carbohydrates, and we're going to get into carbohydrates and how they all end up being the same thing. Okay. So this is almost like a mini masterclass of things that I've learned in the last 5 years, but I'm going to try and keep it simple and not do a deep dive too far in any of these, just so that you can keep up and know what we're talking about. So you can actually have an insulin response to things without even eating them. You can have insulin response to eating things or drinking things that don't have real sugar in them. How is that possible? Your body is set up to use all of its senses when it comes to food and drink. Your eyes, your mouth, your sense of taste, your salivary glands, even the crunch that you hear when you eat something, okay? When you touch something, you're eating it with your hands. Everything, it's a very tactile sensory experience. And each one of those senses will trigger, like, okay, let's talk about salivary amylase. That's something that helps to break down the initial sugars that you get on your tongue when you're eating them, okay? And when that's really simple sugars that start getting digested in the mouth. And this becomes important when we talk about things like smoothies, people. So you start digesting the minute it goes into your mouth. You start secreting different digestive enzymes to help you along the way, so that as it moves along your digestive tract, that the right consistency and the right breakdown is available to be broken down further and absorbed down the line. So if you are not great at regulating your insulin response, okay, the second you have carbohydrates already, you know that there's going to be a response and your insulin is going to spike. And this is in non-diabetics. This is in everybody. You all use insulin in one way or another. It's just people who are not insulin sensitive, it just wreaks havoc in your body. I'm not going to get into the whole science behind it. I'm just going to let you know that you can look at me all you want and say, well, I'm sure that I'm insulin sensitive. You don't know that for sure, unless you are one of those people who is just perfectly healthy and you have no health complaints whatsoever. You don't suffer from any skin complaints. You have no joint pain. You don't get migraines. You don't get weird things that happen after you eat. Okay. So congratulations. If that's you, that's awesome for you. But please don't make the mistake of assuming that everybody's digestive tract work like yours. You are very, very fortunate to have a healthy body. So keep it up. You can just keep on doing what you're doing. Okay. There's that old joke that says, oh my God, I just look at a piece of cake and I gain 5 pounds. There's actually some truth to that. Not the 5 pounds part, but because if you are even thinking about dessert and looking at desserts and you start having that remembrance of the senses, your body then also starts producing the insulin that you're going to need to digest stuff. It's true. It's been proven. If you are having things that have sweeteners in them, not all sweeteners, but 90%, if not more, of the sweeteners that are commercially available on the market right now will spike your insulin. And the only way that you know for sure is if you actually do a blood glucose test with a little meter and you do a finger poke, or you get yourself a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. If you have diabetics in your life, you will know all about those because they tend to rely on them so that they can make sure that their bodies are regulated. It's an expensive thing to do for an experiment. You can buy them. You can get them without a prescription. But if you really wanted to do the test at home, you just get yourself one of those little finger poke devices that use the paper strips so that you can test your blood and find out whether or not you have had an insulin response to it based on or if your blood sugar has risen from having a sweetener. There are some people who have done brilliant videos on this. So I would suggest you just go and search for those videos, because I'm not going to do that. I can already tell you that I'm not insulin sensitive still at this stage. And that, yeah, absolutely, my blood sugar would spike if I was having sweetened things. I know that I've used a lot of stevia over the years. And stevia is one of those where the jury's kind of still out as to whether or not it's safe for carnivore. And what I mean by that is stevia, there are some countries that they actually use stevia as a contraceptive, like a hormonal contraceptive. So think about that for just a minute the next time you go and reach for the stevia to sweeten your beverage, to buy the stuff that's commercially available that's sweetened with stevia. I know that if I start having stevia on a daily basis, I crave sugar. That's me, and that's my personal response. I also can eat yellow mustard and it can trigger a sugar craving for me. And thankfully, I don't put myself in the carb addict space. There are doctors like Dr. Robert Sives, who is actually a cardiologist. He is the carb addiction doc. If you want to know more about that, I'd say go over and visit him, because that's not what I'm talking about. I decide what's going in my mouth, and sometimes it has been sugar in the last year and a half. Sometimes it's been bread. Oh, I have eaten all the things, people. This is like the juicy, juicy stuff. I've tried Italian flour because it's non-GMO. I've eaten the gluten-free stuff that I used to make because I invented a whole bunch of recipes over a decade ago, probably close to like 15 years ago, when I had to go gluten-free. And I've just eaten regular food because I'm like, just for a little while, I want to eat like everybody else. And then I would go back to my clean carnivore and I'd feel a whole lot better. So, what I will say is, in the last 6 months, I've eaten a lot of things. Oh, and they were good. They were so tasty. I've had the cakes, I've had the desserts, I've had cookies, I've had pizza. Oh, are you getting hungry? Are you starting to salivate a little bit? Do any of those things appeal to you? Like, I've had pasta, I've had all the things that I'm not supposed to have on a carnivore diet. And I say supposed to very lightly, because ultimately you choose what goes in your mouth on a daily basis. So you have to decide what you're willing to give up to get the health that you want, to get the body that you want, if that's what you're after. Whatever it is that you desire when it comes to your health, you have to choose how far you're willing to go. And one thing that people talk a lot about, they talk about keto, they talk about ketovore, they talk about carnivore. There's dirty keto, there's clean keto, there's dirty carnivore, there's clean carnivore. There's names for everything, okay? For clarity's sake, the question you need to ask yourself on a carnivore diet is, what animal did it come from, or did it come from an animal? That is your answer as to whether or not you can have it on a carnivore diet, on that kind of way of eating. And when you make that distinction, it becomes very clear. Berries are not carnivore. They did not come from an animal. Like any fruit did not come from an animal. Any vegetable did not come from an animal. Honey, ooh, there's a whole camp out there that get really persnickety about honey. They're like, well, technically it's bee spit or it's bee vomit. And, it came from bees because bees make it. Okay, they converted the pollen from the flowers and turned it into pure sugar. You decide. The whole point of carnivore is to be as close to zero carb as you can get, factoring in, like there is carbohydrate present in eggs. There's carbohydrate present in meat, but it is trace amounts and negligible. Okay, so those are not the things that you're going to say, well, there's carbs in eggs. I'm not going to eat eggs. There's carbs in that meat. I'm not going to eat that meat. No, you know what? Let's not go overboard here. Let's just kind of put some general guidelines around this. If it came from an animal, you're safe. And that includes things like heavy cream in moderation, because it does tend to be higher in carbohydrate. And moderation, I'm talking like tablespoons. Okay. Or once in a while, like if you want to make an Alfredo sauce with that beautiful steak, I'm not going to shoot you down for putting garlic in your sauce. Some people really, really draw the line and they're like, meat, salt, butter, tallow, bacon grease. That's it. Or like some variation of that. And that they will start getting mad when they hear other people eating, oh, you're having spices? Oh my God. If you can tolerate spices, and you're not going to know until you actually go clean carnivore for at least 30 days, you're not going to know. And that's the sad truth. If you're going to try and play around and not give yourself a break for at least a month, you're never going to know truly if you're sensitive to spices or not. You're never going to know if you don't play around with your cooking methods to see if you have a histamine response to meats that are cooked for long duration. Bet you didn't know that. The longer you cook your meats, the greater the chance that you will have not an insulin response, a histamine response if you're sensitive to it. There's some people that can eat brisket, they can eat smoked meats, they can eat all of that stuff all day long. No problem. What a histamine response looks like is, are your guts bloated or inflamed? Are you totally stuffed up the next day? Are you getting sinus headaches? Are you feeling extra phlegmy and mucus? Those things indicate that there's something you're eating that right now you are not tolerating well. And if you're putting vegetables and fruit in the mix, you will never know. That is not the way to do it. Okay. Ketovore and doing keto in a clean way, for people who just want to toe dip, or that they know that ketovore works for them because they've done it cleanly and that they've really kept the carbs as low as possible, that's okay. Okay. For you, you're okay. Really good example of this is Nurse Nisha Berry. Her husband is Dr. Ken Berry. He's been predominantly carnivore. Like he says, 98, 99% carnivore for years. And she's been ketovore. If you know anyone struggling with infertility, she's the one to watch, because they now have 2 beautiful babies. And she was infertile and went through fertility treatments, could not get pregnant. And somebody said, try keto. And so she did really clean keto, and she considers herself ketovore because it's a meat heavy keto. It's focused on having high meaty meats and proteins. That's the difference between doing keto and ketovore, is that you are prioritizing your meats and your animal products over everything else. So it's really, really interesting to see how people respond to the different classifications of keto. And again, carnivore is easy by comparison to keto. I've tried doing keto-ish moments and I'm like, my guts don't feel good. I start craving sugar. Even eating things that are really low carb, I find that it's more challenging, because the more carbohydrates you eat, the more carbohydrates you want. And it's the same thing with the sweeteners that trigger high blood sugar and insulin response, even though you're not actually eating sugar. So you're trying to do a good thing for your body, but really, you're not doing a good thing because you're still getting the crappy cravings for things that are not going to make you feel good. So if you stayed with me this far and you like what you hear, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you know when I'm back on. My content is all about coaching in different areas. It's carnivore coaching. It is alignment coaching, which is spirituality and meditation and connecting with source. But I still want to keep providing those carnivore resources for those of you who need help in the body department and in the health department. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. So we've talked a little bit about insulin response. We've talked about blood sugar spikes with sweeteners and not even eating things that have sugar. And once you are aware of that, you stop looking at food the same way. And the next big paradigm shift for you is that you need to stop looking at food like it's entertainment. This is where, in North America in particular, we use food as entertainment. Our entertainment is full of food. There's product placements in shows that you watch. There are commercials that are, oh my God, they spend millions of dollars getting those ads in front of you. And you're constantly bombarded with the desire to want to eat something. Oh, that looks really good. Oh, let's have some chips. Oh, let's have popcorn. Popcorn in and movie theaters, it's like they go together here. There's other countries where popcorn is not popular like it is here, and that they eat other things. They eat real food when they go to the theater, as opposed to getting a ginormous bucket of popcorn and hoeing down on that for dinner. When I was younger, I did a lot of that, and I didn't even realize how unhappy, excuse me, how unhappy my guts were because of that. So think about food as sustenance. Think about your nutrition. That's my dog. He's on a carnivore diet, and he is way calmer since we switched him off of kibble and put him on meaty meats and balance his food that way. He is a far happier dog who has had severe anxiety in the past. So we're meat eaters. Yeah, we're omnivores. We're at the top of the food chain, but that's exactly it. We're at the top of the food chain. And sure, you can eat plant-based all you want. And if you feel good, you look good, you have mental clarity, right on. What a bonus. There are so many beautiful vegetarian and vegan dishes and baking and all those kinds of things. But if you look at long-term vegans in particular, a lot of them don't look very healthy. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be whatever it is that you happen to be at this moment, but there are a lot of ex-vegetarians and ex-vegans in the carnivore community because for them it wasn't sustainable because they were missing essential nutrients. And essential nutrients, if you've never studied nutrition, this is something that your body needs to survive. Your body needs to survive and thrive, to be able to have proper cell function, to be able to clean out the old cells that are in your body, to be able to have a brain that is functioning and firing on all cylinders. Okay. There are things that you cannot get from the plant kingdom that have to come from an animal source. Okay. And especially with vegans, they're missing essential nutrients like amino acids that you can only get from meat. I'm not saying you need to stop doing what you're doing. If you are happy and healthy, I'm going to keep saying it. Keep doing what you're doing until it doesn't work for you anymore. And then you really have to assess whether or not you're going to keep going in the direction you're going. So, what's another thing? After eating all of the delicious things, did my body change? Even though I was going back to carnivore in between the experiments of the different flours and all of that. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to tell you, it did change. Did my inflammation come back? Did my body compositioning kind of change? Do I look a little bit more like an apple than I did? Yes, I do. And it's not fun. It's not fun looking at my closet and going, yep, I've got one pair of jeans that fit right now. And I just ripped them this morning. So I've gone back to carnivore and I have been eating very clean. And I'm in the camp that, after 5 years, I really know how much I can deviate. And, do I still have a little piece of dark chocolate once in a while? Yeah, I do. But that piece of dark chocolate or those 2 pieces of dark chocolate, I'll have them and then I'm done. I don't want any more. I eat like 85% dark chocolate. I try and choose chocolate that has no soy because I have a whole list of food intolerances, and soy is one of them. And soy makes me break out. Sugar makes me break out. So if I'm having too many carbs, it shows up on my face and on my upper back, and it's painful. It's not even just like having little zits that are annoying. It's actually painful. So you don't get to make that distinction unless you have cleaned up your act 100% and that you have stuck with it. If you look at other carnivores that are out there, I'm going to give you my top 3 resources. Okay. I've already talked about the berries, both of them together, because they are a power couple in the carnivore keto community. I highly recommend that you watch their lives. They have live videos. They tend to do it once a week. Excuse me. And Dr. Barry, having been a doctor, he can speak to the things like, why are my cholesterol tests so high? I have gout. Should I do carnivore? I have heart disease. Should I do carnivore? Okay. And both he and Nisha are fountains of information. They have started their own conferences. They call it the proper human diet. Okay. Eating low carb and zero carb, because really our bodies are designed to thrive that way. And I had somebody recently, just in a casual conversation, somebody who didn't know me very well, tried to put in front of me, well, it's not an ancestral way of eating carnivore because we've been eating grains and all of that since the days of name an ancient culture that was agrarian, okay, meaning they had developed agriculture. Yeah, those things were present. But do you know what made us take an evolutionary leap? It was when we started eating meat, because those amino acids fed our bodies and our brains in a different way. And that is really a big link to why humans evolved the way they did and have the intelligence that we have. It's because they were eating meat. Second resource, okay, the berries are number 1. Second resource, which honestly, she is like number 1 in my books. I absolutely love this woman. Her name is Kelly Hogan. Her channel is called My Zero Carb Life. And she's been carnivore now for probably about 15 years. And she's in a community of carnivores that have been doing it longer than her, some of them for like a decade longer than she has. And this woman, you will not believe it when you hear her story. She struggled with infertility. She was having all kinds of nasty skin issues that I can relate to because I've experienced some of them. And when she started her journey on keto before she went carnivore, she weighed 262 pounds. She has 3 beautiful children, and she looks like a Barbie doll. And I'm not talking starvation here. Carnivore is you eat until you're comfortably stuffed. The berries will tell you that all the time. And it is eating enough. You need to eat until you're full. And how did she do it? Nobody can tell me that carnivore is too expensive, because probably for the first 10 years that she was carnivore, she ate almost exclusively McDonald's burger patties. Okay, say what you will about McDonald's, but when she was working as a teacher, she used to go to the drive-through. She would order her burger patties. She'd get a pound of meat for like $5, and that is what she was eating. And sometimes on her burger patties, she would add either butter or bacon grease. And you need to go over and check out her channel. You really, really do. Because seriously, she is fit, tiny, happy, wonderful mental health. Okay. And she has raised her kids eating similarly to what she eats. And she talks a lot about that on her channel. So if you're raising a family and you want to see how does a carnivore mom deal with the birthday parties, and how does she deal with a husband that doesn't eat carnivore, and how does she feed her kids, and how do they know what to eat when they go out, go check her out, because she's amazing. She really is. Now, the third resource I'm going to point to, you might have to do a little digging for this, but especially when it comes to dealing with cholesterol, you want to look for Dr. Paul Mason. His stuff shows up often under a channel called Low Carb Australia. And I have watched hours of his presentations because I needed to educate myself on the whole cholesterol situation. In a nutshell, we're not getting tested for the things that are important because A, you need cholesterol, because without it, B, you won't be able to produce cells that are healthy, and that your body is not going to be able to heal itself. That's the third thing. You need cholesterol. So people are always like, oh, my cholesterol is low, my cholesterol is great. And what they don't teach you, and what doctors still don't know unless you educate them, is that they're testing for the wrong things. Okay. HDL, the only thing you really need to give a shit about in HDL is it too low? Because getting your HDL levels below a certain point is dangerous. LDL, so that's your low density lipoproteins. HDL is your high density lipoproteins. LDL, not a great indication of whether or not you have any kind of heart disease, metabolic disease, or anything like that, because you still need LDL. And if your body is doing a lot of healing, chances are your LDL and your HDL are elevated. What you do need to watch are triglycerides compared in a ratio with your total cholesterol. So triglycerides and total cholesterol. I'm not going to put the calculation here. It's something that, again, if you go to Dr. Barry's channel, okay, Dr. Ken Berry walks you through cholesterol tests and what the numbers mean and what you need to give a shit about and what doesn't matter. Your doctors are going to freak out no matter what when you go keto or carnivore, especially if you're doing ketovore and you're doing a high meat, high protein, and you're eating a lot of fat. Okay. They're going to shake their head. They're going to try and prescribe statins for you. They're going to tell you that you're doing the wrong thing. They are working off of information that is so out of date. And it's just what they keep teaching in medical schools. There have been studies at Harvard that the findings have been released that meat, especially red meat, does not cause heart disease. Eating fat does not make you fat and does not cause heart disease. So do your research. I'm not going to do it for you because there's an old saying, I think this was Napoleon Hill, that said, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." You need to go and look at the numbers and look at the information. If you're not going to take it from me, go do your own research. And the 3 channels that I've just given you, or the 3 people, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. The 3 people that I have just mentioned, or 4 really, Nisha and Ken, sorry. I know you're individuals, but you guys are like one superpower to me. They are a great place to start. There is also Dr. Robert Sives. His last name is Cywes. He is a cardiologist. There is Dr. Ken Baker, who is an orthopedic surgeon. Okay. There is Dr. Lisa Wiederman. There are so many doctors that are carnivore and that will give you all the information based on what they've been doing for a decade or more. I'm behind these people because they've been doing it for like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What really encouraged me was there was another doctor. Her name is also Lisa, and I cannot remember her last name right now, but she has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And before she started carnivore, this woman used to wake up to both shoulders dislocated, just getting out of bed. And within a few months, she noticed that her body was changing, and that stopped happening. And she had stopped going to the gym and stopped working out and stopped doing all those kinds of things. And she was able to resume her workout routines, because with EDS specifically, your collagen is malformed in your entire body, which is why it's a connective tissue disorder, but it impacts so much more. These are doctors. I'm not a doctor. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to say, go do your research. So I am back to eating as clean a carnivore as I can manage on a daily basis. Don't tell me it's too expensive. Do not tell me it's too expensive, because you eat the meat you can afford. Everybody talks about ribeye. It's like the gold standard in carnivore. If you can eat ribeye because it is high fat, it's really great meat, it's delicious, but it's also one of the most expensive cuts. If you can't afford that, then eat chuck. If chuck is still too expensive, look at something like sirloin tri-tip. No, it doesn't have as much fat as some of those other cuts, but you can eat it with butter. And I eat loads of butter. And when I'm talking loads of butter, I'm talking like probably close to half a pound to a pound a week of butter. Really, when I'm going really high fat. There are things you need to know about how fat is going to impact your guts and your bowel movement. I've talked about that in other videos, and you can go and check that out. But consider butter is like the gas pedal when it comes to your guts. You want to make things go faster? Okay, you need more butter. If your guts are sluggish and you're constipated, you're not eating enough fat. So eat more butter. If your guts are running, there are things you can also do to fix that. Staging back your butter a little bit? Sure. First 3 weeks to a month of carnivore, though, you've got to expect it. And you will hear this over and over again. Never trust your butt. Do not. You do not know when you're feeling that little pressure and you think that it might be a little toot. Ooh, you got to be careful. I'd go check yourself if I were you before you let that out, because it might be a poop toot. So just keep those things in mind. Okay. This has been almost 45 minutes now of me catching you up on what I'm doing. And what you don't want to do on carnivore, I think you've probably gotten the gist, is stay away from sweeteners. Stay away from fruits and vegetables, because that's not carnivore. I would stay away from honey if I were you, because it's pure sugar, and that's what you're trying to avoid, so that your blood sugar stays even Steven, and that you are not having a blood sugar spike that creates an insulin response. This is when your body will start to rest and it will start behaving like you want it to. You need to just give it time. So again, everybody, if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you want to check out the other things that I have put on here before, I had a whole bunch of segments called Coffee with Mare. I have also a playlist called Carnivore Resources and Zero Carb. There's also a coaching playlist, I believe. But I've done a lot of troubleshooting. If you're struggling with your carnivore, you don't know where to start, go have a look at my first 30 days. It's all in there. And if you just want to tweak your carnivore because your carnivore is not working for you, there's probably some really easy fixes if you're dealing with loads of heartburn, if you're dealing with your guts constantly on the diarrhea mode. There are really simple things that you can do. Also, things that you need to know when you go high fat and what your body's response is going to be to that. So do your research. Go check it out. You can drop me a comment if you need help. I will do what I can. I am also planning on opening up a private community where people can have a targeted area. So if you're not interested in the spirituality stuff, or you're not interested in meditation, and you're not interested in connecting to source, that's fine. I get it. I want to have a place for you to go where you can just get the stuff that you want. And that's going to be coming up soon. If you are struggling with the whole notion of eating animals, the only thing I can say is this: the native peoples have it right when they just have gratitude and appreciation for everything that nourishes their body. That is how I look at it. We also need sustainable farming that includes having animals roaming around in pastures for those people who do live as part of the agrarian society. If you want to renew the dirt, you need some really good poop to go in it. So cows are essential whether you are carnivore or not. So let's just please keep that in mind. I'm not here to debate your points of view on whether carnivore is right or wrong. I've had people say, oh, you should go vegan. I'm like, yeah, tried that. Tried vegetarian, or is really, really close to it, and I got sicker. Anyway, just some off the cuff and cheeky remarks for you. I hope you've enjoyed this segment. If there is someone you know who is struggling with carnivore, or they're on keto and it's not working and they don't know why, and they're considering carnivore, I don't care if it's, especially people who are dealing with cancer. Sugar feeds cancer. And every carbohydrate that you eat gets broken down to glucose in your body. If you are eating carbs, that is the cancer cell's favorite food. It all ends up being the same thing in your body. When you're eating on a ketogenic diet, you switch to, it's almost like high octane fuel. It will give you mental clarity. It will allow your body to heal, especially if you're looking at eating until you are comfortably stuffed. This is not a 6 meals a day. This is you eat once or twice a day. And trust me, you're doing it right. You're not hungry. You don't want to eat. And within a week, your sugar and carb cravings will be gone. So if that's for you and you want to be a part of my tribe, you know where I hang out. I'm here. I'm on Instagram. I'm not talking as much about this on Instagram anymore, but I have recipe posts. I have things that I used to do. I've talked about status updates, but I prefer to be over here on YouTube. So let's hang out. Send me some questions. Send me your thoughts. I can point you to the right resources, but I do want you to go do your research. All right? This is me signing off for the day. We'll talk to you soon.